Hello and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag, an Italy travel podcast. I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And I'm Darcy Melton.
And today we're going to continue our delve, if you will, into Venice.
Yeah.
As the Carnivale is coming up even sooner than it was 2 days ago.
Yes.
It's a little hint, nudge, nudge. We were recording this on the exact same day as we recorded Wednesday's episode. But it should be on the 31st of January is when the Venice Carnivale starts.
And it goes all the way until the 17th of February.
Wow. So you have plenty of time to get in there and see
I meant
things.
to say on the last episode that the theme this year, because they always have a theme, is Olympus, the origin of the game.
Okay. Because I think they're doing it like in more recognition of the Olympics and not like in partnership with the Olympics.
Right. I don't think it's in tandem or anything, but the Olympics are happening around the same time that the Carnivale is happening in Venice and the Olympics are in Milan and is it Cortina,
I think.
Thank you, this year.
So if you are interested and you're in the neighborhood, you should check out both, I guess.
Yeah. Although the Olympics are hecka expensive.
That is true.
We have mentioned that on previous episodes.
You can invest in some good binoculars and stand far away instead.
Exactly.
Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been following along. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. And to everyone who has been leaving us reviews. That helps us get found by other listeners. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to follow us also on not just Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, but you can also follow us on Instagram at Only Bag Podcast, I believe, where if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, Darcy will answer them as she is our designated, well, I was going to say social media person, but I think we really only have the Instagram. The blue sky was short-lived.
Yeah.
We also have a website, onlyabag.com, if you'd like to check out any articles. We're going to try to put some of the articles in the description of Wednesday's episode, as well as today's episode for Venice. For those of you who are going and just want to have some resources, you'll have some resources down below. And if you'd like to support the podcast, down below you will also find affiliate links to some of our favorite hotels or our tours, things that we enjoy in Venice. And if you use these links, we get a small kickback, a small percentage from the company, not from you. So there's no added cost to you. We also do not represent these companies. We're just merely, I guess, affiliated with them, I guess is what the affiliate link stands for. And if you'd like to donate to us directly as a way of just saying, keep up the good work, you can do so on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/onlyabag.
Yeah.
And I believe that's everything.
Okay. Let's get into it.
Let's jump right in.
Let's start talking about our collective favorite thing.
Food.
Food.
Okay. I was like, is there a second collective favorite thing?
It's food. So the number one sort of food item, I would say, of Venice, aside from seafood, they got lots of seafood, is cicchetti.
They're near the water, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe. There's some, I can't remember which part of Venice, but some of Venice is on the water.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that. I did know that.
Acting, you guys. That was acting.
And sarcasm.
Yes.
So seafood's really big. And cicchetti are very popular. And these are essentially little finger foods. They're like a little slice of bread and toppings.
Yes.
Various
if you
toppings.
Are gluten-free, if you cannot have gluten, you can ask to see what is gluten-free. Often, I guess to clarify, I don't know if they use gluten-free bread so much as it will be, because cicchetti, I think, just means finger foods, as far as I'm aware.
But they tend to be the ones with little breads.
Yes, no, for sure. But sometimes it's like a piece of salami, or it'll be like a piece of smoked salmon.
Or like an artichoke.
Or an artichoke heart.
Artichoke heart, thank you.
So,
not a whole artichoke.
That'd be amazing. Do you want a little bite?
Just a whole fresh artichoke.
You're supposed to eat it like an apple. And so, yeah, these are little like kind of a lot of them are vegetable based, a lot of them or salami or cream cheese seems to be found in a lot of them. Some sort of creamy cheese. I'm not really sure what that's about. But if you're gluten free, there are options that are not just things on bread. Likewise, if you are vegetarian, ask for sure. I mean, if you're gluten free, you can also ask, but it's a little bit more obvious when you're like, oh, that does not look like it has bread on it. It's an artichoke.
A lot of them have little hidden fish.
Yes, they're really big on putting hidden fish into things, or hidden like those little tiny little shrimps, like hidden under something. And they're like, of course it has tiny hidden shrimps. Why wouldn't it? It's also covered in mayonnaise. Do you not want a bite? I'm making it sound terrible. In reality, they're very good. They're wild and interesting and different. And some are like the blue cheese gorgonzola with the radicchio and the what are they called? Noci, the walnuts, little bites like that. Or, I mean, there's like all sorts of kinds. It's kind of a great I mean, it's obviously the classic Venice pastime of having a glass of wine and a little plate of cicchetti. And had we been recording this episode like pre-COVID, I would say that all cicchetti are €1 as a standard. It seems to be, going by Venetian food writers, that one of the biggest change, like in the United States, the big change after COVID was no more 24-hour stores. That seemed to go out the window. And in Venice, the big change is the cicchetti are no longer €1. It seems like they've now moved to 150 or 2 or even 250 in some cases, which does change it a bit because the portions did not get bigger.
Exactly.
The prices did.
Yes.
So keep that in mind if you are reading an old article that says, gorge yourself on cicchetti, they're €1 each. That might not be in date.
It's still a fairly inexpensive way of eating and having fun food, particularly if you're not looking to have a sit-down dinner, but if you want to do like your own sort of food tour, essentially, and go around to different wine bars and / cicchetti places. If you're sort of scrupulous about it, if you're on a tight budget, you can notice which ones are like €1, 150 versus, €5 for something that's really expensive. Usually, would you say that they have the prices listed?
They should. I mean, in our experience, they do, but sometimes it will be like on the wall or somewhere, and it'll say cicchetti 150 or cicchetti €2 or €1, whatever it is.
Because I feel like in our experience, it's not that, one cicchetti shop will have all the same price for all of their cicchetti. It will be varied prices depending on the ingredients, it seems to me.
Oh, I was going to say the other way around.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think, and I only remember that because that was back when we were both vegetarian rather than just you. And I think one of our sticking points was a little bit of annoyance knowing that we were paying €2 for essentially an artichoke heart.
That's true.
Because we're like, oh, I get like when it's the meat and cheese and bread or whatever it is. I get when it's like €2 of meat, but it felt a little bit like, oh, it's €2 of radicchio. I can buy a radicchio for €2.
That's true. Okay. So maybe it's a little bit of both.
So that was, because I remember, that was, I think, a sticking point for us.
One note for these is, like I said, it's not a sit-down situation usually. Sometimes we've had the experience of, we were there, I think when we ate a lot of cicchetti, we were there for Carnevale, so these places were packed. So you might not get a seat anywhere. A lot of them, because they are wine bars, are standing room only. They'll have like a little bar sort of area around the outside. You're probably looking at a bunch of wine bottles. So it's standing room only sort of a situation.
Sometimes they're a wine ledge more than a wine bar.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's literally a couple of inches.
It's kind of old school feeling in a way.
10 centimeters depth. That being said, as a small warning for those of you who are looking to go, it is illegal to eat or drink on like the steps of a church or on the canal or sitting on the canal in Venice. So it is something you sometimes see people do. I don't recommend following in their footsteps. Instead, unfortunately, do as Venetians do and just stand and eat or stand and drink. And
right next to the restaurant.
Right next to the restaurant.
The cicchetti shop, yes.
So, or this, yeah. And that's what most people seem to do. However, you'll notice like students especially, and I say students not like because, disparaging to students, but just there's this sort of younger vibe of like, oh, we'll get in trouble by sitting on the steps. But
I think too, students tend to be in larger groups from like 3 to 5 people. And sometimes there's just not an area for them to congregate really comfortably quite near cicchetti shops. They tend to spread, and that means that they're sitting on steps and near, canals where they're technically not supposed to be.
And that said, also, there were a few that had massive crowds outside that we went inside and were able to find seating. So just keep that in mind too, that just because there's a massive crowd outside does not necessarily mean there's no seating inside. It could just be people are only popping in for a quick drink and don't want a table, even in February, which was ridiculous. But
one place that we ended up loving, we thought was going to be too crowded, but happened to catch the bartender's eye, and he basically held an arm up over the heads of all the other people, and it's like, due, like 2 people, and we're like, yeah, and he's like beckoning us to the back. It was great.
It's like, this is your barrel now.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a seat. We got to sit there. It was wonderful.
And I think, if I may go back to the prices really quickly, the prices of wine do vary, but it's about between €3 and €7 a glass, or roughly 5 is what you'd expect to pay for a glass of wine. A little bit less if it's something house or there's a lot of Prosecco on tap. Sounds really fancy. But a lot of sparkling wine on tap is a little bit cheaper. But that is just in case, again, trying to give you all an idea of like, ooh, I'd love to do a night where we're just bouncing. And because that's what we did, I think of the 4 nights we were there, 3 nights we basically just went to different cicchetti places, had a glass of wine and 3 or 4 small bites, and then new place, glass of wine, 3 or 4 small bites.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was kind of better than, because I think, again, you and I have talked about this in a previous episode, it's better than just going to a restaurant and having the same food you might have had anywhere else. It kind of felt very
and we ended up spending less by doing this. It was far more effort, to be clear, to find these places and then to walk to each of them and, struggle through the crowd every time. But restaurants in Venice tend to be very expensive, like 30 euros a plate. So I would say that this ended up saving us money because it was fine with us to do this sort of situation.
Plus, the wine was cheaper. I mean, we weren't paying 10 or 11 or $12 a glass. We were paying $5, and it was really nice wine. So it kind of felt like very...
That's the thing, too. Though these places tend to be quite affordable, it seems to me, and I don't know that much about wine, but these places do put a lot of effort, because they are basically wine bars, into their wine. So you're going to get a good quality thing.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So cicchetti, highly recommend.
I like that.
Let's talk about quickly, it's just kind of a warning. So we say this all the time, pizza is a Napolitano thing.
Sure.
Real pizza is Napolitano pizza. Other places, and I'm snooty about it, other places in Italy will have pizza. Venice pizza is giant, and you get it by the slice. It's like a not street food, but little hole in the wall sort of places where you go. We kind of stand by the shop and eat it.
Yeah.
It might not have seating.
We saw that too. It happened a lot of places. Like, I remember around Florence, we saw that a lot. It was it was sort of very American style, almost a giant circular pizza, and you get a slice. And it felt, in comparison to sort of Rome's like pizza Italio, basically, where it's a rectangular pizza and you get a small square. This is
it's
just
kind of fluffy.
Yeah, and this is more of like a kind of a basically very New York style slice, if I think would be the best comparison for it.
So that's just kind of a warning, and if you like that, you can go get it. And it's pretty inexpensive too.
I remember being a couple euros per slice, which was nice if you basically need a quick lunch or a quick dinner, or just in a quick slice, or if somebody's hungry and like they're not gonna eat. Like, I'm thinking with kids sometimes, like I don't know if they have chicken fingers at this restaurant.
Right.
Do you want pizza? We can get you pizza.
Yeah.
That can be an option, because you can get pizza. It is available.
Exactly.
To be fair, it's probably available at the same places with chicken fingers, so
I don't know.
Might be.
So also another warning, dinner time in Venice is around, what would you say, 7:30?
Roughly, that's what we found. Yeah.
I would err on the side of, I guess, telling myself we eat around 8:30 usually. So I think of Venice as having a very early dinner. I would say like 7:30. So just keep that in mind.
If you are listening to this and going for Carnevale, this probably won't matter to you as much, because when it gets dark at like 4:35, having dinner at 7 kind of feels appropriate. Like, it's been dark for 2 hours. In the summer, when it gets dark at like 9:30, it will feel a little bit weirder to kind of be like, oh, things are just closing and all of a sudden we're supposed to be at dinner. This is like weird, because I think like in Rome, for example, you'll notice a lot of things do close at like 8 or 8:30, and then after that you go to dinner.
Right.
So it's a little bit weirder for things to close earlier and then go to dinner earlier, especially if you just came from Rome.
And that was the thing with us having cicchetti. We think of 7:30 as like aperitivo hour. That's when you get a glass of wine or a little snack or whatever before dinner. So because dinner time is around 7:30, cicchetti hour, aperitivo hour, is around 6:30, I would say. And these places, sometimes, some of them do close around dinner time. So they'll be open sometimes like before lunch, because that's another aperitivo hour, into the early afternoon, and then open back again, I don't know, roughly like 5-ish to 7-ish sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes these places, these wine bars, do stay open into the dinner time hour, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it. I would double check.
And I think they will kind of close, like we noticed like Baccaretto da Lele, which is a semi-famous one in the sense of it's well known in Venice, and it's not too far from the train station. They closed, I want to say at like 8, and they also kind of ran out of food pretty early as well. So it seems like some of these places only make one batch of the cicchetti, and then when they're done, come again tomorrow kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. So shall we just, that's food.
That is food, yeah. And I think we talked about pastries already. There's a whole episode we already have on Carnevale as well as Venetian pastries that we can link in the description. We can also throw some articles, but it's basically, if you're going for the fritelli, it's totally worth it because that's for Carnevale. And the rest of the year, there are other pastries, but that would be, it's kind of like what they're known for. Is what I guess is a big thing. It feels like the fritelli or what, like that's that's why you go to Venice kind of thing.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. But we'll link that in the description. We just didn't want to go back over the same territory too much.
Yeah, and I would say like there are traditional Venetian dinner things, like we said in the last episode. I would recommend Cannareggio, Dorso Duro, those places for more neighborhoody restaurants versus San Marco or San Polo. San Polo, like Nathaniel said in the last episode, has great pastry shops, but those two neighborhoods, San Marco and San Polo being in the center, are more touristy and will likely have more touristy restaurants compared to, real people who live in Naples restaurants.
Yeah.
And one other thing is that this was something I think someone posted on Reddit recently, was basically having a bad experience at a highly touristy restaurant, and that was on the Grand Canal. I don't recommend eating on the Grand Canal. If you're not confident that you can spot a touristy restaurant, I would just say don't eat on the Grand Canal, because those are going to be touristy, very likely.
Yeah, but especially between the incredibly high cost of rent and the fact that they're going to have to use very much subpar ingredients to make up the difference. Unless you have a serious budget and you're going to be like, oh no, the place we're eating on the Grand Canal is like, Michelin star type thing or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it typically for a normal sit down dinner. Even if it looks nice, it's probably not going to be. It's that kind of same sort of tourist trap versus real restaurant type thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess moving on to tours, I wanted to mention tours. We don't really talk about tours too often. We actually will, because we want to do a couple episodes on over tourism versus mass tourism coming up in the next couple of weeks, I think. And tours kind of, fit into that. And a lot of it is because in Venice specifically, tours are seen as part of the problem. So I just wanted to kind of do a quick little bit on it. And essentially, one, it can be super helpful. I mean, genuinely, to learn about the city, to learn about the neighborhoods. If you want to take a tour of it's the base of the church, but in Piazza San Marco, it's the Church of St. Marcus. St. Marcus? Yeah, St. Marcus.
San Marcus. Marco.
Yeah.
Is his name Marcus?
I think in English, right? Yeah. Mark. Who's Marcus?
I don't know.
Is it French? I don't know. Marc. I don't know. St. Marcus. St. Mark. And then you can climb to the top of that. I think it's a bell tower. That's all part of tours. And I wanted to mention simply because it can be genuinely amazing. It can be a phenomenal experience. You can learn so much. You can feel as if you kind of tapped into understanding. And I also want to urge, or not urge caution, but highly suggest that you look into the tours you take. There have been some sort of accusations, for lack of a better word, especially during this whole when basically people are talking about Venice is over touristed, like there are too many tourists there taking too many tours. This word needs more consonants. So otherwise, I'm just like, I feel like I'm making the same sound over and over again. But I know that there's a lot of accusation that some of these tours were just making up things because there weren't really, I mean, while you needed a tour guide license, it wasn't really like a hard and fast thing, it seemed like. So you could kind of just make up things and people, that sounded more interesting than the story and people loved it. So that was another big issue. But the second thing I wanted to mention is that some of the tours will take you to like the San Polo neighborhood, which is very, very tight. And when I say tight, I really do mean, imagine if this street was the width of a standard sidewalk. And not even like a standard sidewalk in a city. I mean like a standard sidewalk like in a suburb. So
there are some streets and alleyways, like walking areas in Venice that are one person wide.
Yes, but then people will take a tour through there, and sometimes obnoxiously stop the tour to give a talk about something that literally only the tour guide and the first person in line can see. But they'll say and as you walk by, you can look at this thing, and it creates a lot of traffic. But I wanted to mention that for anybody who is a bit claustrophobic or feels overwhelmed in crowds or feels overwhelmed in tall buildings and very tight, narrow alleyways, a tour around Venice can be beautiful, but it can also be a major point of stress and just anxiety. So just, I want to throw that out there, I think, in terms of separate of the whole, am I part of the problem, am I part of the solution sort of thing. It's just more on a physical, personal level, do you feel comfortable in a tour? And if you do, there are some great ones. Also just know that they kind of all go the same place. So you might be kind of in this mob of people and unable to get out because you don't want to leave your tour early and you don't want to give back, because they all come with headsets now so you can hear the tour guide. So you don't want to like give back your headset early and say, never mind, this is too much.
Did you mention, sorry, I was double checking that it's a bell tower, not a clock tower, so I missed it. Did you say that the tours are limited to a certain number of people?
In Venice?
Yes.
That's actually a good point, because they are limited to a certain number of people. However, that doesn't stop them. And what
Because
they do is give you another.
Yeah, they'll add like a second person who's technically a tour guide, but they're not really. They're just like another official person with the tour, and double the amount of people, right?
Because essentially it's I think almost like a chaperone, because it's still the tour guide who's doing the talking, and you still hear the tour guide in your earbuds.
Yeah.
But you're with a chaperone who's not doing any talking and who might not even know anything about the tour. They're literally just hired to be, again, quote unquote, a tour guide to take another 30 people. So you could be in a tour of 60, 70 people.
Right, and I think they're trying to clamp down on this, the city of Venice, to prevent this clogging of masses of amounts of people in a tour in these tight alleyways. So I think they're trying to curb that, but you might end up in a situation where you're there with like 60 people, and that is a problem with over-tourism, but that is not your fault.
Yes,
that is that
for sure.
tour company's fault.
Yeah, that is. And that's something I wanted to get into, actually. When we talk about over-tourism versus mass tourism, is this sort of idea of like, because I think it's easy to blame the tourist, but it's oftentimes not the tourist's fault.
Right. You wouldn't know until you get there.
Exactly. So that was just a quick little note on tours.
Yes. Let's jump into a quick little note about shopping.
Love it.
Okay. So I'm going to try to give you ideas of how to find authentic goods when you're shopping for goodies in Venice.
Okay.
The easiest one is if you want to buy glass and you are going to Murano, buy the glass in Murano and get it from, like if you go to a factory, if you do a factory tour, I would say buy it there. I will warn you that it is expensive. It is a artisanal item. And no matter what, double check where it's made. I would say, like, if you're at the factory, it's easier to know that it's made in the factory. If you're in shops around Murano, it's more likely to be made on Murano, but do double check like the bottom if it's a paperweight or something, if you're allowed to pick it up. I'm not suggesting you pick up some expensive art item.
Sure,
but if it's a paperweight and you're allowed to pick it up, if there's no sign saying, please don't touch, double check the bottom, because if it's made in China or somewhere else, it will have a sticker. If you're buying glass in Venice, definitely double check to make sure it's made in Venice or in Murano or locally, because there are a lot of people selling things, taking advantage of tourists, that is not made in Venice, is not made in Italy. So just double check.
And they'll call it like, Murano style or Venetian style,
but
rather
it could
than
just be made in China.
Exactly. So it can be one of those, and it's just more of like, if the gift means something to you, fantastic. But it's more of just, if you're getting something as a gift for somebody and you're like, oh, I really want them to have the authentic thing. And then you realize after purchasing it, oh, I was swindled by the sign that said Murano style. Or sometimes too, we've been in shops that have like a little, I don't know what you'd call a sign that says like, this is Murano glass. But then you kind of assume that all of the tables in the shop are Murano glass. No.
Right.
Just that one table is Murano glass.
Yeah.
The rest of it is not from there at all. So that is just, that's, I think, that really smart.
Unfortunately, you just kind of have to keep your eyes peeled and do your own on-the-spot research,
Yeah,
essentially.
no, exactly. And of course, I don't think it is straight up fraud to take the stickers off the bottom. That's, and to basically say something's made in Murano when it's made in China. So that is less likely. People will probably not try to defraud you, because that ends up in...
Because that is a straight up crime.
Yeah,
but
right.
people will sort of make you maybe think, like you said, that it's like Murano glass and only part of the shop might be that. So just double check.
And unfortunately, returns are not a big thing in Italy. So if you find out later and you're like, I did not want that, sometimes they'll do an exchange where you can exchange it for something else in the store, like of a similar price point. But returns typically, weirdly, even at big box stores, are not a big thing.
I would say they might not even let you exchange it. I would say once you buy it, it's yours.
Yeah. That's actually, honestly, it's probably a good base to work from, is just assume if you buy something that's a permanent purchase.
One thing that is way more prolific in Venice, that it is authentic than I thought it would be, is Venetian masks. There are lots of shops where you can get locally made Venetian masks, and they're reasonably affordable. We bought 2 and they were between 20 and 25 euros each, which I think is a steal. I think it's incredible. So I'll do my best to put our suggestions for those shops in the description. Where you should not buy a Venetian mask, and this is especially happens during Carnevale, there will be people with carts in the street selling masks. You can probably pretty easily tell they're plastic. Those very likely are not made in Venice, and if they're plastic, they're not
Venetian masks.
They're not Venetian masks. Venetian masks are paper mache, sometimes leather, especially nowadays. Sometimes people will make fancy ones with leather. So don't buy the ones off the street carts. I'd say do go to these authentic shops to get the real deal.
Especially because the price point is not huge. I mean, like if you get one of those really extravagant ones, to be fair, I mean, you can get these really beautifully extravagant ones for like 300 euros from a shop.
For sure.
And then like 50 from a street cart. And you're like, that's a difference. But yeah, it's like €5 for the cheap plastic ones that you're just like, all right, this will be fun for today. And then, but it's like, I mean, you can get 15 for a decent one at a shop, a decent like half face mask, and it's I feel like it means a lot more just because it is like handmade, made there, and it's authentic process for whatever it is. I don't know. It's just kind of that same thing of going back to whatever tourism restaurants. It's like it's when you're in a place where you can only get something in that place, why not do that rather than get something that you could have gotten that on Amazon back home, and it's the exact same version.
Exactly. And I think so Venetian masks and glass are the two biggest sort of artisanal items, I would say, in Venice. I'm sure you could get like a bottle of wine, potentially not, there's no vineyards in Venice, but from around the area, especially if you go to one of these, wine shops or wine bars. But I would say that generally glass and masks are the big ones.
Are the two big things,
You can buy a costume, a Carnevale costume. That's going to be very hard to get into your luggage, but it is possible to do that. Or just a little pair of shoes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun that are made there. Those will be the same places likely that make the masks.
Yeah.
I would say, I think a lot of people come to Italy looking to buy leather and leather goods. Venice is not the place for leather.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So things like that are not going to be locally made.
Yeah, it's unlikely. I mean, there might be some artisanal store here and there, but it's unlikely. It's not it's not a massive thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a massive like, oh, Venetians have made leather for the last 700 years, like Florence is all big about. Maybe you can buy a ship in Venice. I don't really know about that though.
You can go to boat making workshops. There's at least one. I'll try to find it and put it in the description. They have tours. I don't know if they actually make the boats there and they have tours. It seems like a family run situation. I don't know if you can buy, I think regular people can buy, what's that part? Like the oarlock.
And that was exactly what I was going to say. Actually, the only thing I can think of that you also might want is the gondolas have that thing where they, oarlock, or there's a name for it. It's an Italian, probably a Venetian name for it, where they can set the oar in different parts and it's kind of made out of wood.
Are beautiful. I mean, they look like a little sculpture. I mean, they are a little sculpture. They're
expensive.
Beautiful.
I mean, there's a couple $100s, but they are, again, still that's from if you want like a fun thing, or if you have a boat back home and you thought, you know what, I need to attach this to the boat.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Then it's worth it.
Yeah, so that's my notes. Moving on, I mean, it's a good segue from the oarlocks to boats.
Yeah.
Let's talk about y'all. Every time I look up what are boats in Venice, like what are different kinds of Venetian boats, it seems like every time I look, there's another one.
Yes.
That I'd never known about before. And when you look, I mean, mostly if you look at a picture of Venice, you could just think, oh, boats. I know what a boat is. There's so many kinds. So.
And they're all, I mean, it sounds like reductive, but they're all kind of vaguely the same thing. It's kind of like when people talk about airplanes, and I'm like, right, but it has like two wings and it goes through the air.
It is a seafaring object.
Yeah, it's kind of the boat is, it's still like, whenever somebody says a gondola, well, it's not actually a gondola, it's this other thing. I'm like, I know, but there's a guy standing on the back of it, pushing it through the water with an oar. That's kind of a gondola.
But it does make a difference if you're looking for signs.
I sound so uncultured, I apologize.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a step back for myself. The first kind of boat you will likely see in Venice is the vaporetto. That's the big ferry sort of situation you've seen.
That does not look fancy. That looks just like a shrimping boat.
Not even. It looks a little more janky and taxi-like.
It's like a World War II sort of like little, I don't know, all metal.
Yeah, if you've seen a water taxi, it looks like that. It looks like a ferry. So that is a vaporetto. There are of course, the gondolas. Mm-hmm. And those, I believe, typically have one gondolier each. they are absolutely fascinating to watch.
Yes.
I mean, it's not even people watching, it's the gondolier watching is absolutely incredible. So those will likely have space for, I think, 2 to 3 people. And they're fancy. They have like gold sort of inlay on them and like fancy seating, and it might have like velvet. So those are a little fancy.
They rarely sing though, the gondoliers. I think the
Yes.
movies they sing, or in
That's true, they
popular
don't
culture,
sing as much.
they really don't. They
Some of them
sometimes
do.
they're on their phone checking like TikTok or something while they're doing that.
Yeah.
So it's not the same romantic vibe as it might have been.
You might be able to request someone who's into singing, though. I don't know.
Maybe.
So this is why it's important, even though Nathaniel was just throwing some shade on it, to know the difference between the gondola and the traghetto.
Okay.
Because the traghetto is roughly the same overall size and shape, but it has sort of bench seating rather than fancy plush seating.
I would say it has ledge seating.
Well, some of them have like a little, yeah, it's a little
Because the one we
ledge.
took is just sit on the edge of the boat.
Yes, but some of them have like an actual sort of little bench on
do
the
they?
inside.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we just took the not so fancy
we
one.
took the jankier one. So if you go to get a gondola, you don't just hail it like a taxi. You do have to go to a gondola stop
Point, yeah.
And some of them will say, gondola rides, buy them here. Some of them will say gondola, and then another sign will say traghetti or traghetto. So if you're a group of more than 3 people and you want to be on the same little boat for your tour, you're going to want a traghetto. It's not as plush, but that can fit more people. I think up to 5 people, 5 or 6, maybe more.
Yeah.
On the sort of toury ones. And then there is what Nathaniel and I took, because this is a hot tip, an actual hot tip. If you are like
Spicy
us
tip.
and you are on a very tight budget, but you want to have the experience of being on a gondola type sea vehicle, you can take a traghetto that essentially just takes you across the river.
The Grand Canal.
The Grand Canal, yes. And there are several of these points. Some of them don't always. Like there are ones, it seems like it used to be a bigger deal or bigger, more common thing. So sometimes little traghetto stops won't function anymore, so you'll have to look at the hours. I'm going to tell you about 3 that definitely work. But this is basically, it's €2. You get on the boat with like 8 other people. Mm-hmm.
It rocks violently back and forth as everyone steps.
It's amazing. Do have your sea legs about you
Yes.
as you get on. The boat captain people will give you a hand usually, but it's rocky. You pay as you get on. It's not a gondola driver. The boat
Gondolier. Triggeteer.
Yeah, something like that. The boat driver person
Who has
boat
the
captain.
exact same black and white striped sweater or shirt.
Yeah, aren't they? Who are they sponsored by?
Oh, I think the Loro Piana, the Italian menswear, like luxury menswear.
They
has
look
like,
very fancy.
yeah, but it has the same, like in the sense of if you're going for an aesthetic thing, it does have the same aesthetic. You have the people with their black and white striped shirts and their little oar.
And a pile of coins right next to them, just sitting on the boat.
Yep.
Because that's how you pay to get on. And they'll just take you right across the river. I highly recommend it. It is so fun, even though it's a short little journey.
You're
it
about
was so
3
fun.
inches off the water the entire time.
And you're sitting on the edge of the boat, really.
Yes.
So,
There's not a bench. It's not that fancy.
no. So hold on tight.
Yes.
It was so fun.
And it's also, again, as you just mentioned, it's just worth it if you really are just like, I want to take this boat trip and I can't, like, it's, I think 90 euros for a gondola ride is like is the standard. And then when I say standard, I mean like it's set by the city, you can't change it kind of thing. But that's where it starts. And that's a bit obviously like pricey if you're just kind of wanting to just go on there for 5 minutes. So it was fun for the kind where you're just like, oh, we're just on it for 5 minutes. And then on a practical level, you might notice when you're walking around Venice that you think you're getting somewhere and all of a sudden it just dead ends at the canal. And you're like, oh. And so there's a few of the times where dead ends at a canal, but you're like, oh no, this is a traghetto stop. And then that's where you can just take the traghetto. Traghetto, I'm sorry, I can't figure out which accent to use, across the canal and then kind of continue your journey. So it's, because there's only like 3 bridges across the Grand Canal, I think.
Something like that.
Like the Accademia di Rialto, and there's one other one across the from the train station. So if you're not near any of these 3 bridges, it makes it actually way easier to cross the canal.
There's a couple fun little areas where this where the traghetto will definitely go. If you want to go see the Basilica Santa Maria della Salute, which is a big church, which is kind of on the tip of Dorso Duro, and it's a beautiful little, there's a lookout point essentially there. It's a really pretty spot. So you can take a traghetto from the San Marco neighborhood over to the church directly, essentially. And then you can also take one from the tip of that sort of the Dorso Duro island. It's not an island, it's the Dorso Duro area over to Piazza San Marco.
Wow, that'd be lovely. That's a great way to see Piazza San Marco.
Yeah, exactly, right? So Nathaniel and I took one that was more inland, and that was...
We took it to a pastry shop.
Yes, classic us. And that was San Tomà, right? So that was from the San Polo area to San Marco.
Yeah,
the neighborhood, not St. Mark's Piazza.
Right. No, we
Piazza
were going from our hotel to a pastry shop and thought, like, oh, this would be a fun way to do it.
Yes, and those should cost €2 per person.
Yes. So that's, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a great way of using it as a bus, basically, but also using it for a cultural experience, if you will.
And the last boat that you might be taking, and this is the fancy one, is they're called motoscafi. They're essentially private taxis that you can hire, and they look like...
Oh, those are those little wooden ones?
Yeah, like
that
the
you
old,
see in
like the old speedboat, but they're all wood. They're beautiful. I think my mom and my cousin hired one to go from Venice to Murano, and it was pricey, but they said it was totally worth it.
It seems totally worth it, to be honest. It seems like if you have the budget, that's like... I mean, gondola seems cool, but I want to, like, you know, pretend that I have a scarf that I had to catch in the breeze.
Yeah, and the motoscafi are definitely faster than a gondola because they have a motor, not a person. They have a captain.
They just get in and hope for the best, honestly.
So yeah, so there you go. That's my tips on boats.
Transportation in Venice with Darcy Melton.
Yeah, I'm sure that when I look it up again, I'll find another name of some other boat.
Sure,
but those
honestly,
are the major ones for you to know.
I think we just missed the regatta, the boat regatta, and there was a bunch of different boats. Which again, really cool. I'm glad there are different names for boats, but it's like one's like, what's the difference between a sloop and a skiff? And I'm like, I don't. They have a hull, I think. I don't know. I know a catamaran has 2 hulls. I think. I don't know. I don't know anything about boats, but I love the idea of boats. I should be clear. I'm just not a. I don't own a boat yet, so I don't really know anything about boats.
Okay.
Waiting for the day. So with that being said, that is our episode, I think, on Venice, part 2.
Yeah, it has been. We packed a lot of seemingly random information in there. I hope it was helpful.
We hope, yeah. That's the goal was just to basically, if you're headed to Venice at any point, or if you're literally going in the next couple of weeks, just to kind of like give a quick rundown of like, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. I hope you enjoy yourself. Because it's a blast, especially if you go for Carnival. But even in the summer, I know that in the summer it gets a bad rep because it's a lot of tourists and it gets hot and muggy, and the canals can sometimes be super low and a bit stinky.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because I meant to say this last episode, this is it's a warning for all of Italy. I don't know how the Italian plumbing system works.
Oh, sure.
But bathrooms can smell like a sewer smell, and it's not you, and it's probably not, and it's not dangerous. It's not a problem. They just kind of get stinky because of the way Italian plumbing works, I think.
And at Venice is specifically.
Venice and Naples, I would say, are specifically. I think it's places that are close to the water probably have a worse time of it. Venice specifically, we stayed, like Nathaniel said, we stayed in a great little hotel in the center, and it was wonderful. But the bathroom was smelly, and it kind of smells like marsh and plumbing.
Yes, it's not. I will be honest. It's not pleasant, but it's also It's not constant. It was also the thing. It was clearly like it would have a wave of it, and then you'd kind of open the window, and then in an hour it'd be nothing. Like when we slept, there was no issue. It was just, I think, at different points during the day. It usually is worse after it's raining. And I only mention that too because sometimes you will see on comments of different hotels, like, it was nice, but the bathroom really smelled. That unfortunately is just part and parcel.
That's just how it is, yeah.
Especially if the hotel does not own the building they're in. If they're in one of those buildings that have multiple hotels, or have like a hotel on one level and then apartments on the other, they might not own the plumbing for the building. So they might have done everything they could to plumb the hotel properly, but it might still be hooked up weird to the main. I don't know where it comes from though, genuinely, because I'm like, they have the little U traps and a lot of or P traps, whatever they're called. P isn't the letter P. Yeah. They have a lot of P traps, but I'm not sure like where it would come from. But this is it's a good warning, especially in the summer. It can kind of summer after rainstorm can be a little bit like, woo, that's potent. But
It's just sort of like if you're prepared for it and you know what it is when it happens, I feel like it can be less stressful and
Yes,
seem a little less
exactly.
gross. It's not like your neighbor or your partner in the room has had like a time in the
Yes.
bathroom. It's just the way it is.
it also is not something, I think it's actually good because if you know this going into it, it's not something to be like, oh my God, I have to call the front desk and to figure out what this is.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, I heard on the podcast this might happen.
Open
And
a window
yeah,
and you'll be fine.
exactly. So, and that said,
I feel like I'm always leaving off on a bathroom note.
that's
I'm
what you
not
come to
mad
Only a
about
Bag for. You're welcome. You're welcome, dear listener. But no, I was gonna say if you're going for the summer, I know it gets a bad rep, but honestly, it's still a very lovely time and a very lovely city. Just
Yes.
sort of again consider the fact that nobody's heard of a tree in Venice, so the idea of shade is entirely non-existent.
Yep.
And keep that in mind as you walk around. And we hope you enjoy yourself.
Yeah, we do. And we'll talk to you next week. Tanti abbracci.